Howdy, this is Lemmy with Dorman Products. I'm joined by Chris from Dayton Parts, and today we're diving into fleet maintenance. Now, if you're trying to drum up a little fleet business for your shop, we're gonna give you the facts you need to know as a counterman, as a service writer, as a tech, and even as a shop owner. Let's get into the mix. So Chris is joining us today. He's actually with our heavy duty division from Dayton Parts. Dayton Parts actually has a functioning shop. Stanley Springs is pretty neat. They're still making all sorts of leaf springs, all our stuff here in America, which is really cool. They also have a shop where they're installing that stuff. So Chris deals a lot with a lot of those fleets. So let's dig right in, right? So what is a fleet? What are some of the ones out there?
So a fleet would be any group of vehicles that a business owns that they need to keep running to keep their business going.
Fleet can be a lot of things to a lot of different people, and some of you out there who are dealing with fleet customers probably know exactly what I'm talking about. You may have the landscaper who has 3 trucks, and man, those things have to be running. Yeah. But it may also be too a fleet of Cascadias for a national carrier, right? Where all of a sudden, you know, you're talking 7,500 trucks or some ridiculous amount. I mean, fleets really can vary, I think, right?
It can be from 2 cars, it can be all the way up to 1,000. I mean, whatever the person's running. Walmart versus, you know, the little guy that's doing landscaping. So oftentimes the characteristics of a fleet vehicle differ a lot from your home vehicle. You're gonna have tons of miles, tons of hours, tons of other things that are going on with them. It has different problems. You're gonna also see a lot of the times the fleet vehicles are gonna see the issues before a lot of the other people that aren't putting the miles and the hours on them that normally would be done.
I would say fleet vehicles are the blandest vehicles on the road, right? Think of your contractor spec, cloth interior, white F-150, regular cab, long box.
Only AM, yeah.
Right, exactly. It's just they're very basic and they're designed to not be, you know, need intense maintenance and repair. They're designed to be simple, straightforward vehicles. Usually you don't see, I think the big busts, right, are always when they try and introduce some weird new thing to a fleet vehicle.
Yep.
All right, now Chris, given that fleet work is sort of its own animal, as we kind of discussed, how does it affect different people, right? In the parts store, in the shop, like how does it affect folks?
So fleet work has a lot of benefits for the people that are running a shop. It has a lot of benefits for your local parts stores. There's a lot of good there. So for a shop owner, you really have to focus on what's your profitability. I mean, that's what you're really there for. A business is made to make money. They love the fleet stuff. It fills in when we have downtime. It gives us something that's very regular. Shops everywhere depend on the economy hardcore, and it helps you level everything out.
To me, fleet work I thought was always cool because, you know, it comes in peaks and valleys, right? It's like grapes, comes in bunches sometimes. Having some fleet work to sort of fill in can help make that a little more stable. That really helps, I think, during the lean times.
For sure. Some of the things with like the foremans that run the shop, somebody out in the shop floor, they don't have to worry as much about specialized training for their technicians. Oftentimes it's easier to find someone that's going to do your oil changes and your brake jobs than it is to find someone that can rebuild a transmission. So for our side of it, when we see general consistent work that's similar, it really breaks a lot of that stuff out of there.
It does make sense. It makes it a little easier to kind of dull work out, as you're talking about. Your better fleets, I think, are going to concentrate really heavily on maintenance, right? Which, to your point, is not nearly as difficult as diagnostics and repair. And it does make it a little easier to keep all of your techs working because a lot of times that the work is a little bit more basic, right? You don't have a C tech who's standing there watching an A tech who's just buried.
Exactly. The other thing too, like if you're a service writer, you're going to have contracts with a lot of the people that do fleet work. You're not going to have to call them every day 10 times, say, hey, we found this little issue, we found this problem that's not going to be covered with what we talked about. They trust us because we have a good relationship with them. So for that side of it, we just keep on going. We say this is something that needs taken care of. It's going to benefit them. They're going to have less downtime. They're going to have a lot less issues from that.
That same flexibility means you can schedule a lot of this stuff, right? So a fleet manager, especially one who's very active, may say, hey, I've got a few thousand miles coming up and this thing's going to need some service. Let's schedule that out for a couple weeks. And I think it really is a symbiotic relationship there between your customer and your shop in a really good setup.
You can also apply it to, hey, you might pass inspection right now, you might be able to keep going for a little while, but this is only, say your brakes are at 4 bonded, you know, I mean, you're gonna need this before the next time your guy has a day off so you can bring your vehicle back in. So it's a good bonus there. And honestly, the counter staff, they don't have to deal with people as much. So as much as I love the personal side of our business, you can just say, hey, thanks for the keys, we'll take care of you and we'll call you when it's finished. So it's a huge benefit.
All right, let's take a moment too. Let's talk from the customer side of things here about the maintenance schedules as they exist, right? You're on the heavy duty side of the house. That's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, a lot of the times with the heavy duty and the small end, you have different maintenance schedules than, let's say, the OEM schedule.
For sure.
So a lot of the vehicles that we see have a lot of hours. They have a lot of time sitting running. You can't do an oil change every 20,000 miles. You know, you have to get them done a little more often.
Right, right. So there's, on the light duty side of the house, right, we almost every vehicle will have a sort of a severe duty schedule, right, of maintenance, and that you can sometimes have to talk to your customer about that. I would say too, on the parts side of the house, incidentally, right, like at Dorman, we have our RD chassis, right? This is stuff that is designed for fleet style maintenance, right? So these are incredibly strong and long lasting parts, but the other side of that is they need constant maintenance, right? You can't let that ball joint go ungreased. That has to, that has to happen. Customer strategies with the fleet can also be good to sit down and discuss with the fleet manager, especially for you service writers and shop owners out there. Are these vehicles leased? Are they amortizing them quickly? Is this something where they're gonna own a vehicle for 3 years and then ship it off? I mean, you may have a different strategy than if it's one of those things where the company buys these things lock, stock, and barrel. That might be, the difference between, hey, it's time to get rid of this car versus, okay, we're gonna pull this truck out of service and this is now gonna serve as a parts truck if you have room on your lot for this. Boy, you look like a real champion if you need, you're still gonna make your money on the labor on something, but it's a, hey, didn't you have truck 452? Didn't that, I think that had some good parts left on it. We might be able to drag that thing over here and swap some stuff out.
And that would be something that helps them. It's the same with the big beginning of the vehicle all the way to the end. It really helps to have things that are consistent. So if you have a guy that only has Freightliners or only has Fords or whatever they're running, at least you have a little bit of interchangeability and they have something to do with a vehicle that maybe has a catastrophic issue. At least it benefits them in that way.
For sure, those hodgepodge fleets can get difficult, for sure. But let's kind of look at it pros and cons, right? Is fleet work necessarily beneficial to a shop, do you think?
For the shop that I'm in specifically now, it's crucial. We have,
that's all you're doing.
we have a lot of regular small customers, but for even a larger business, we can really accommodate them and just say, hey, we're gonna take care of this. You're not gonna have downtime. That part's huge, but for our side of it, it is so worth it. We have, say you have a reduced rate when you have a customer that has a fleet that they can contract with you and say, we'll do your oil changes for this contracted rate. It's something that you have as regularity as well as them. And budgeting is huge for a business. So for our side of it, we can plug that and say, hey, you won't have to have that as a variable for something. You can focus on your business and stuff like that. So for our side of it, it does the same thing. We can actually expect those people to come in. We can expect work that's consistent. So that's everything for us.
So I don't disagree with you. I think ultimately fleet work is pretty beneficial. I think any fleet manager worth his salt, right, is going to try and negotiate the best rate as possible, right? I'm bringing you more business, therefore I want a cheaper cost.
Yep.
I think that's not necessarily bad, but I think it is something to be aware of, right?
Yeah.
So your margins are a little tighter oftentimes on fleet work.
You got to talk to them about where you have to be with your numbers at your business, and it's not bad to be open about that. They understand they have employees that they have to pay and still make money too. So the value in it still comes in with the regularity of it.
I would say also, for the most part, parts availability can become a little bit weird, right? Like, normally if there's one person who has one vehicle and you can't get parts in a reasonable time frame, that's often acceptable. However, when you have a massive shortage, there's a bunch of trucks down, that customer is gonna get pretty ticked off, and that may be outside your range of control, right? Whether you're the parts counterman who can't source the parts, whether you're the service writer who can't get them from the counterman, that can get a little bit sticky. And then the other con I wanted to bring up too, like I dealt with some fleet leasing companies who are kind of their own weird thing. And they're not always necessarily aligned with the interests of the driver, the person operating the vehicle. And most of the time that manager is remote. So they don't even know about the condition of the vehicle. So, me as the service writer or the tech, I'm trying to explain, hey, this thing's in bad shape, it needs X or Y or Z, and they're sort of fighting the entire way through it. Whereas the customer, the person who actually brought you the vehicle, may want the repair done, but the fleet manager doesn't want to pay for it. That can get really sticky, I think.
I feel like the cons and the pros, you always have to weigh everything out. There's always good, there's always bad. For a business, you just kind of have to see where you are. A lot of places that I have been in the past that have fleet work, you can have an extra guy maybe that does just the fleet maintenance. Maybe they're just gonna do oil changes and brake jobs all day long, but hey, it keeps somebody going, you're making money, they're making money. In the end, it's all about the profit. Why do we have businesses, so.
Yeah, I would concur. I mean, overall, the number of dollars in your till are going to be higher. I do think it is important from a business perspective to remember there's usually a little margin erosion there.
Absolutely.
To a shop owner, it might matter. Honestly, to the service tech, I mean, 4.6 is 4.6. It all pays the same. Well, those are some of the ins and outs, I think, from a couple of folks who have a little bit of experience with fleets. If you've got any opinions of your own, make sure you drop them down there in the comments. Thanks for checking out this video on fleets and fleet maintenance. I'm Lem, this is Chris. We're out of here.